Hello, my name's Dante. I'm a registered psychologist from Australia, and in this video I wanted to run through about 10 of my most commonly used play therapy tools, games, and toys. I kind of wanted to explain who I would use them with, what the purpose of each of them is, and how each of these could kind of help in the therapeutic process. So each of these play therapy tools, toys, and games kind of falls into a different bucket of utility, but I'm just going to go through them in the order in which they are the closest to me. So first up, we've just got good old pencils, good old paper. I've got a bunch of felt pens over there, and I've got a whiteboard behind the camera right there as well. They all fulfill basically the same purpose, and there's a few of them. So I might use these to do writing activities. So for example, writing about a family, writing about an incident, writing about hopes and dreams, writing about yourself and who you want to be, writing about people that you look up to. It could be for drawing, so it could be a creative, constructive task, drawing the house, drawing the family tree, drawing something that you're afraid of, drawing something that you want to talk about, but it's too hard to talk about, right? All of these things, paper, whiteboard, whatever, can all fit into this exact same purpose. With that in mind, actually, another thing that can be really, really good for this, if I can reach it, Play-Doh. Play-Doh especially for, say, like the under 8 kind of age range, where their fine motor control and ability to draw might be kind of bad. Their ability to write things might be kind of non-existent. So Play-Doh is really, really good for this, right? So you can construct things like, show me the house, show me the classroom, show me the mean teacher, show me the, what happened at home or whatever, and like build it out with Play-Doh. You can also do just like little emotional identification, skill building things. So, like, let's make a happy face, let's make an angry face, let's talk about times we've been happy, we've been angry, things like that. Play-Doh is really cool for that. Play-Doh as well is nice because it's not really messy, right? Like you shape Play-Doh and you pick it up with Play-Doh and there's just like no mess left over. I'm big on the no mess thing. So while a lot of play therapists will love things like, glitter and slime, I have deliberately cultivated a play therapy arsenal that does not involve glitter or slime. Moving on to the next thing, based on what's closest to me, Cards Against Humanity, the Australian edition. This one is good for working with teenagers for essentially just like building rapport and getting them talking. Sometimes with teenagers, they're not here voluntarily always. Their parents will like bring them in and kind of be like, fix my kid, and then the teenager doesn't want to be here to begin with. So Cards Against Humanity is kind of nice because it helps me to break out of the stereotypical medical practitioner mold, which they can find it really hard to talk to someone that they've kind of put into that category of like clinical and cold. Whereas with Cards Against Humanity, there's going to be some unhinged shit coming out of my mouth. And that can make it a lot easier for teenagers to be like, okay, this is someone that I can actually talk with. They're like a normal human being. They're kind of getting on my level. That's really, really nice. Uno. Also pretty nice for this. Uno can play with a wider range though. Like I wouldn't really bust out Cards Against Humanity with an 8-year-old. Uno though, Uno is all ages, baby. It's particularly good just as a vehicle for conversation. And there's a few things here that fall into this category of vehicles for conversation. Much like pasta is a vehicle to carry pasta sauce, some of the things here, like Uno, are vehicles for conversation. They're games that require very, very little cognitive effort. They don't use up your verbal centers in the brain whatsoever, really. And so you can just play these games while talking. And the reason this is really good is because for a lot of people, especially for like a lot of young boys and teenage boys, talking without doing something as you talk is very foreign. It's not a thing that they do. It's not a thing they're trained in. It's not a thing they're socialized to do. And so by just doing something with our hands as we're talking, it makes holding a conversation so much easier. With adults, you get a similar thing, but that's why here, you can see it. I've got kind of like a fidget bucket. And a lot of adults that I'll talk with and work with, they will just like fidget with things like, a Rubik's Cube or like, one of these bendy snakes or whatever. And they'll just do it like while they talk, just because doing something, however minor it is, just doing something while you talk makes it so much easier to talk. And that's why I always like keep this basket of things like right here on the client couch. I'm going to stick to the theme of vehicles for conversation. So I'm actually going to reach for something that's a bit further from me, which is this. This is my mini pool table. Now, vehicles for conversation don't have to really cost much money. You could buy all kinds, like a pack of Uno cards you can get for, $5. A pack of playing cards, you can just play a card game for $2, right? I spent a little bit more money on like this mini pool table because I like it and I think it's nice. And I think if you're like a play therapist or someone, or like a psychologist who wants to do play therapy on the side, which is kind of like how I practice things, spend a little bit of money and buy things that you think are cool. Because there's all kinds of like play therapy games that I could buy and could use for this purpose that I would personally not find interesting in any way. And while yes, the sessions aren't about me, if I myself am more interested in some activities, I think on some level that's going to make me more engaged and it's going to be better for the client. So I've made sure that kind of everything that I use with my clients, well, I have a wide range of stuff so that many different kids, many different teenagers with different tastes in things that they might enjoy can find something. I myself like all the stuff as well, so I'll be more engaged with them. But yeah, pool is another really good vehicle for conversation in that I can just talk and they can just talk and we can just play pool at the same time with each other. And it requires like very, very little cognitive effort to just, we're not lining up shots. We're not professionals here, yeah? Slightly as an adjunct to that, I've got this 3-in-1 magnetic game kit. It has chess, it has checkers, and it has backgammon, which I don't know how to play. Checkers is really, really good for the vehicle for conversation thing. Doesn't take much effort. Chess is a bit harder because of how much effort chess takes in order to converse while actually playing and strategizing. I found chess to be quite good for 2 different demographics. One is for some of the intellectually gifted children that I work with. Their brain is just, like they just need the stimulation, so it gives them something like intellectual to do. I'm not a great chess player, but I'm like better than most kids out there. So yeah, I can put them to a challenge. But also, chess can be really, really good for kids who we're working on like a few different cognitive skills, right? So maybe they need to work on inhibiting their movement or whatever, like exhibiting some self-control in some way, joint engagement, like for long and extended tasks. So like building up that cognitive skill of sticking with a thing, even when it's taking a long time, building up some of like the problem solving and foresight type skills, right? Like, okay, you can move there, but like pause. If you move there, what can I do? And then how would that impact you, right? So there's quite a few skills that you can build directly with chess as long as you use it that way and you're not just autopilot playing it. So chess can be cool for those 2 groups of people, I think. Next up here, I've got my Lego kit filled with a mixture of authentic Lego, Kmart Lego, and what I can only describe as blatant copyright infringement from AliExpress. But I got like a whole bunch of these AliExpress little Lego figures. There's like 40 of them for about $15. Pretty sure this is meant to be Luffy from One Piece. And I don't know why his face looks just so evil. But anyway, Lego is really, really cool for working with, I'd say, under 13s, generally speaking. Again, similar to Play-Doh, you can kind of do construction tasks. So, let's build a school, let's build your home, let's build your living room at home. Let's like use some figures, who can be mom, who can be dad, and you can kind of play out some stories that way. You can also just use Lego as a vehicle for conversation. So just mindlessly kind of building things as you're talking and holding a conversation. It's very similar to Play-Doh. It's very similar in also some ways to just like the pencil and paper. There's a lot of like shared themes. Like I said earlier, you don't just want like one game for one theme. You want like a wide range because some kids don't like Lego. Some kids don't like drawing. Some kids don't like Play-Doh. But if you have like a wide range, when you're trying to fulfill a purpose, you're like, okay, I need something to build a scene. You can offer options. They can just pick the one they like. And like I said, I like all of them. I'm cool with playing with Play-Doh. I'm cool with doing Lego. I'm cool with helping them draw a scene on paper or a whiteboard or whatever, right? So there's a wide range of things. So there's always kind of choice. And I think that's really nice. Reaching further back, I've got loom bands. These can be nice just, again, for a bit of a vehicle for conversation with kids. It can be good for working on things like prolonged task engagement. It can be good if you're trying to get kids to teach you a concept, right? So building the child's ability to perspective take and understand what I don't know. So I can pretend that I have no idea about loom bands, but they've learned about it at school or whatever. And then I can be like, oh, please teach me. And I can pretend to not know as they're teaching me. Like, there's all kinds of little things that you can do to build this ability for them to engage their perspective taking muscles. Loom bands are pretty cool for that purpose. Also, if the kid is working with their OT on like building fine motor skills, because they struggle with that, I can kind of double up on that OT, occupational therapy goal, and just help to like build that a little bit faster. That's cool. Back here, Connect 4, Lineup 4 actually. This is a really good game for mostly working on frustration tolerance. Another really good frustration tolerance game is this, Giant Snakes and Ladders. Giant Snakes and Ladders is very frustrating because, like, I don't know, there's like 20 snakes and I swear to God, like 5 ladders in this game. I don't know why they designed it like this, but as soon as I realized that, this became my go-to for working with kids who struggled with frustration management, because they get frustrated a lot. I get frustrated while I do it. So I get frustrated and I get to model emotional regulation. They get frustrated, they get to practice some of the skills that we're working on. That's a really good adjunct tool. Lineup 4 is excellent because as long as I'm trying, I will never really lose to a kid while I play this game, which means I get to very specifically control the dial of their frustration. So maybe I'll let them like win 1 and then they'll lose like 3 in a row. And I can see they're kind of getting to the precipice where if I make them lose again, like I won't have a therapy room anymore because it's just going to get destroyed. So then I'll let them win and then we can like practice some of those emotional regulation skills during that escalation period. It's really nice. Like it's one of the few games where I can very much just control the dial on their frustration. Uno's a little bit similar in that I can hit them with a +4 when I know it's a good time to hit them with a +4, or I can just hold it back if I see they're getting too escalated and we can practice some of those regulation skills. But there's a lot of chance in Uno. Whereas Connect 4, it's a very simple, it's a solved game, and I can just very deliberately escalate and de-escalate them when I need to in the therapy setting, and then get them to engage some of those emotional regulation skills as they're doing it. Over here, I've got some things related to teaching and working on emotional recognition and regulation. So I've got like all these emotional faces. They're cool. Can be like, you know, what face is this? When have you felt that way? Tell me about a time you've seen someone else feel that. Like we can just work on all that kind of emotional recognition stuff. Here I've got zones of regulation cards. So not sure how widespread this is internationally, but a lot of schools in Australia use what they call zones of regulation. So we have like the red zone, so that's being mad or angry, and the blue zone, that's being sad and tired, and the green zone is where you're happy and calm, and the yellow zone is where you're worried and anxious. These are really, really cool as well. So we might do things like narrative construction. So we'll pull a random Uno card, and if it's red, we go, okay, tell me a story about a time you've been in the red zone. Oh, wow. Then what happened? Oh, okay. If that happened again, you know, out of the skills that we've talked about today, some of the strategies, what one could you try? Oh, interesting. And then we might role play it and whatever, right? So these are cool. I don't use them a ton anymore, but when they're useful, they're quite useful. I think the last thing that I have here is probably the most important thing that I have here, and I probably should have just gone through it first, but I'm going to need to make some space for it. So while I push all this out of the way, let me introduce you to what is probably the most widely used, widely recognized play therapy tool that essentially every play therapist will utilize at some point, and that is the sand tray. Okay. So I literally don't know how to frame this shot with the camera where I'm in it and the sand tray is in it, other than this weird holy selfie shot. Deal with it. So the sand tray, I got this from Kmart, the actual box. I got this whole bunch of sand from Bunnings for like $10 or something like that. It's dirt cheap, probably because it's dirt adjacent. Sand tray is awesome. It's like a combination of Lego, Play-Doh, whiteboard paper, and pencils, and it all kind of combined into one. You can do so much stuff with a sand tray, it's honestly just phenomenal. So with the sand tray, we tend to use like a bunch of miniatures, right? So for example, I've got a whole bucket here of like miniature animals. I've got a whole bunch of Lego people. I've got a whole bunch of like little cars, little people, boats, planes, fence pieces, whatever. You can use all of it with the sand tray, right? Sand tray is great because kids get to kind of construct narratives, they get to play out stories with the miniatures, they get to create scenes, they get to do all kinds of things. It's great for observing themes coming up, like for example, you'll have a kid and they'll come in and they'll be like, this crocodile, this is me, and then they'll draw a big line and they'll be like, this is my half, this is your half, you stay over there, right? And like obviously this is a kid who's learning about setting boundaries. Maybe they don't get to do this at home really. Maybe their older brothers are really pushy and never respect them. Really, whatever it is, right? Like you'll see a lot of these themes emerge from the scenes that kids will create and construct in the sand tray. Considering how cheap it is to kind of set one of these up and the amount of value that I get from it in terms of using it with kids, I would say if you're looking to add play therapy to your arsenal as a therapist, start with a sand tray, spend about $200 to $300 on just like buying the sand, buying the box, buying a ton of different like miniatures, because you want to have a lot of different variety, right? You want humans, you want human adjacent things, you want girls, boys, you want cars, you want Barbies, you want dogs, you want cats, you want ducks, you want rabbits, you want boats, you want fence pieces, you want like a lot of different things. You want a lot of variety because then kids can really express like a wide range of things in the sand tray. This is probably my most used play therapy tool out of all of the ones that I demonstrated. And I've probably got like another 20 or so different tools and games and things like that over in the play therapy storage cupboard. But I would say that the sand tray makes up more than I use like all the other things that I didn't show on camera. All of those things combined is about how often I use the sand tray. And then the other things that I showed here today, these are probably like my top 10 most used things. All right, those are my top 10 most used play therapy tools and toys and why I use them and who I use them with. If you have any questions about them, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. And if you yourself are a play therapist or therapist in training and you use any tools that I didn't talk about or I didn't mention, but you find them like very cool, very useful, leave them as a comment. I'd like to have some more things to potentially consider adding to my storage closet, although the play therapy storage area is, what's another word for overflowing that's more dramatic? Dramatically overflowing. It's getting a little bit chockers, but I've got a little bit more space if you guys have some amazing suggestions. Anyway, that is the video. I hope that it was entertaining, educational, some combination of both. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.